Hi, and welcome to the latest edition of Better Minneapolis. I'm your host, Terry White. If you like what we're doing here, please consider becoming a paid subscriber. Also, we're looking to have an event soon, March 19th, for paid subscribers. We're going to have a happy hour, hopefully, so feel free to email me at terry@betterminneapolis.com if you are interested and able to attend. Okay, so today's episode, Trust, Taxes, and Results. Residents are asked to fund government programs. What they want in return is competence, accountability, and a clear plan for Minneapolis's future. Trust in public institutions is built on results. When residents are asked to fund government programs through their taxes, they expect competent management and measurable outcomes. Too often in Minneapolis and across Minnesota, that confidence is wearing thin. The picture here of the Hennepin Healthcare building in Minneapolis. One example is the financial strain facing Hennepin Healthcare. We have invited Hennepin County Commissioners Jeff Lunde and Angela Conley, so far without success, to discuss the situation. Both commissioners have warned that closing the Level 1 Adult Pediatric Trauma Center is a possibility if additional funding does not come from the state legislature. The Safety Net Hospital is projecting a $50 million budget shortfall by the end of March. The system has already laid off 100 full-time employees and eliminated 5 medical programs. Commissioner Conley summarized the situation starkly. To quote, "Hennepin County cannot afford to absorb those costs, nor can we increase our property tax levy enough to even cover those costs without revenue to replace the ongoing losses. The hospital will not remain open." Minneapolis public schools are facing a similar challenge. The district now expects a deficit approaching $50 million, up from roughly $30 million projected only months ago. Layoffs of teaching staff are being discussed as one way to close the gap. The 2026-27 budget must be approved by June 15. These pressures raise broader questions about competitiveness. Minneapolis public schools compete with suburban districts, charter schools, and private schools. If families lose confidence in the quality of education, they will look elsewhere, and new families may choose to settle outside the city. A strong school system remains one of the foundations of a thriving city. Concerns about performance extend beyond schools and healthcare. Consider the Metropolitan Council. Few residents would say the Green Line has been managed without significant problems. Former Met Council Chair Charlie Zell retired in September, and Governor Tim Walz appointed Robin Hutchinson, previously a Minneapolis Public Works Director, as his replacement. We've invited Chair Hutchinson to join us for an interview about the council's priorities and what improvements residents should expect. At the same time, residents deserve credit for stepping up to support neighbors and small businesses affected by Operation Metro Surge. The full economic impact of the immigration enforcement actions is still unfolding, but the disruption has been significant. Recovering from that disruption will require Minneapolis to strengthen its role as a vibrant hub for education, healthcare, and businesses of all types. Recent developments in downtown real estate highlight deeper concerns. Target paid $110 million to exit the lease at City Center, which is now up for sale. At one time, Target was the largest employer downtown, and the decision to leave City Center reflects how dramatically office work has changed. Most employees are no longer working 5 days a week in the office, and many companies have permanently shifted to hybrid schedules. Yet there has been little public discussion about how the city will sustain spending if property tax revenue from major commercial buildings continues to decline. There may be little sympathy for out-of-state investors such as Samsung SRA Asset Management when they lose money on these properties, but falling property values also reduce the tax revenue those buildings generate. When assessed values drop, the city must either cut services or raise taxes elsewhere to make up the difference. I have a picture here of the Guthrie Theater. To compete for new investment, Minneapolis needs a clear edge. That advantage could come from strong infrastructure, excellent schools, or a highly educated workforce. Right now, many leaders struggle to define what that edge is. At the recent Next 26 event hosted by Greater MSP at the Guthrie, there was a great deal of praise for the spirit of Minneapolis residents, but little discussion of concrete ideas for how to attract businesses to the city. Businesses frequently cite familiar obstacles: heavy regulation, a high tax burden — Minnesota ranks 44th in tax competitiveness — concerns about public safety, and the rising cost of childcare, now the 7th highest in the country. Residents deserve a serious conversation about how Minneapolis plans to address these challenges and rebuild trust that local governments can deliver results. Rebuilding that trust may require leaders willing to step outside traditional party lines and focus on practical solutions rather than political orthodoxy. Survey results. Our March 1st newsletter, Avoid Sane Recession, included a survey to gauge how readers view Minneapolis today. The results suggest a community that still cares deeply about the city but is increasingly uneasy about its direction. When asked about the overall direction of Minneapolis, 58% of respondents said they felt somewhat or very negative. Confidence in the city's economic rebound was also limited. Not a single respondent said they were extremely confident, and the average rating was 2.63 out of 5, essentially neutral. When asked what matters most for recovery, support for local businesses ranked first with 32%, followed by public safety, 26%. Job creation came in third at 13%. Other ideas included infrastructure investment, tax changes, and creating a friendlier environment for both small and large businesses. The responses are particularly notable because most participants are long-time residents. 74% have lived in Minneapolis for more than 20 years, suggesting that the people who have invested the most in this city are also among those most concerned about where it is headed. There were also some encouraging signs. 52% said they plan to stay, including 22% who said they love Minneapolis and will never leave. At the same time, 27% said they would move elsewhere if they could, and another 22% said they occasionally think about leaving. Taken together, the responses paint a picture of a city whose residents remain committed but increasingly uncertain about its future. Here are a few of the general comments, and these are only a small selection. Please contact me if you wanted to read them all, but these do a pretty good job of explaining the general feelings out there. Quote, Minneapolis's recovery, if it happens, will be despite the council majority. Thankfully, there are forces outside their control, unquote. Quote, property taxes to fund the pet projects of the city council majority need to stop. Focus needs to be applied to initiatives that bring in visitors and businesses, not to those that keep people in the suburbs, end quote. Quote, in my mind, the city needs to prioritize the following. Number 1, public safety. The police department is still extremely understaffed and is generally viewed as incompetent. I think this is definitely a factor in businesses closing. People do not want to hang out in areas that feel unsafe or have homeless encampments. Number 2 for this person was improved infrastructure and planning. Number 3, responsible budgeting. Number 4, functional city council. And they went on to say, overall, I feel like the city government needs to think very carefully about how their actions impact people's desire to live and work within the city. It seems like there is less and less of a reason to live within city limits as opposed to living in nearby suburbs. End quote. New quote. I live in Uptown, have for 30 years. We need to get businesses back, do something about public safety and the homeless. I have zero confidence in today's DFL, and there isn't an alternative. Sigh. End quote. Quote. Could be a tough stretch ahead, but this city has too much going for it not to make it through. Downtown business activity is important for the tax base, which positively impacts other factors. End quote. Quote, it's been amateur hour from elected officials in Minneapolis for years since we moved here in 2021, and frankly, we are tired of it. The reality, for the first time in our adult lives, we're questioning whether or not we made an unwise financial investment by buying a house in Minneapolis. Our concerns are centered around a major lack of public safety, an unfriendly business climate, and a constant state of activism on behalf of elected officials and a vocal minority that they seem to only listen to. End quote. Why would anyone want to open a business in Minneapolis? With restrictive and complicated permitting, constant regulations coming towards them, like the Labor Standards Board from the City Council, and then having to remove human excrement and graffiti from their business entrance day after day, what is the point? Constant protests, constant political graffiti, constant grandstanding, and blowhard behavior. We are over it. Another quote. I have never thought of leaving Minneapolis until recently. Although I have a solid retirement income, rising property taxes and overall cost of living increases, along with a lesser quality of life in the city proper, parentheses, public safety issues, sense of civic disorder being tolerated, keeping the city clean, no encampments, property crime issues, less neighborhood and community unity, divisiveness, and a really dysfunctional group of folks on the city council, East Lake Corridor and small businesses suffering for years post-George Floyd, etc., for the first time has me thinking to look across the river to St. Paul. Next one. The city needs really strong, clear political leadership, and we have a real problem still with the faction of the city council that is at war with the Fry administration, basically, and who do not listen to or care about the actual realities and experiences of their ward constituents. That dynamic is the number one thing that needs to change for the city to ever move forward as a connected city. Next. The city needs to become more economical in its decisions, less idealistic. Stop self-promoting over stability. Next. We are actively divesting our capital investments and primary businesses from Minnesota. Many business owners we know are doing the same. The 2023 legislative session forever changed the economic and social trajectory of Minnesota. Minnesotans will, as a result, be more equal but also more poor. Next section here, building for the future. Our readership reflects a wide cross-section of Minneapolis. Readers vary in age and financial circumstances, but they share two things. They follow the city closely, and they care deeply about its future. We take that feedback seriously. The responses from our recent survey closely match what we hear in conversations with neighbors and friends. And here I have a picture of some people along the Mississippi River Trail of all different ages. Minneapolis is facing an unprecedented challenge with Operation Metro Surge, but many of the city's financial pressures and policy challenges existed long before the surge began. If Minneapolis hopes to avoid falling further behind, the city and the city council will need to work together more effectively than they have in recent years. That may prove difficult. The council is divided into factions, and into factions that often express open distrust of one another during meetings. Resentment toward the mayor, particularly over his perceived closeness to landlords, is often expressed openly during council discussions. Addressing complex problems will require a shift in tone and priorities, and that change will likely happen only if residents press their elected officials to focus on practical solutions. At the March 5 City Council meeting, 7 members voted to extend the eviction notice requirement from 30 to 60 days. During the lengthy debate, Council Member Chowdhury spoke about how Operation Metro Surge highlighted the economic stratification within Minneapolis. She is correct that the divide exists and it deserves attention, but is also a national challenge. The most effective steps the City Council can take locally are those that improve public safety and create an environment where businesses feel welcome to invest and grow. One notable result from our survey, not a single respondent mentioned President Trump. While local leaders often point to federal policy debates, residents appear more interested in what the city government can control. People want progress on issues that affect daily life, such as clean and safe streets, sensible regulations, and predictable tax and spending policies. As voters consider future candidates, the focus must shift from ideology and party affiliation to experience and capability. Do candidates have a record of solving complex problems? Have they managed large budgets or led organizations through difficult decisions? If Minneapolis wants strong schools, a stable public hospital, and an economy that can compete nationally, it will need leaders with proven records of achievement and residents willing to support them. Minneapolis is shaped by the people who care enough to engage, speak up, and push for better. The challenges ahead are real, but so is the opportunity to build a city that works for the people who live here. That will require trust in local government, and trust must be earned through responsibility, transparency, and results. Thanks for reading and caring about Minneapolis. Have a good day.